Hey guys, this video is about my sand muller machine that I've been working on for a few months now, and I didn't film any of the construction of the machine. I wish I did. It started out with me just forgetting my camera the first day but wanting to start, and then next thing I knew was like 4 days into it. I had done a lot of work and I haven't recorded anything, so I felt like it was too late at that point to start recording. So right about now I have all the parts. I don't know if you can see them behind me. We're ready to, I had this thing together and I took it apart to paint everything, and now everything's apart, and this is the perfect time to film the assembly process, and I can talk about each part and how I made it. Now I know it's not the same as going through one by, video by video following the build. I wish I had recorded it, but I did it. So without further ado, let's start this construction of the sand muller. And for all of you that don't know, a sand muller is a machine that will kind of mix the sand for you. It mulls the sand. You pour in water, it mixes it. It's for right after casting. It gets all the clumps out of it, and it's just an easy way to, get the sand back after you just did a casting. So here we go. Let's do this. So over here by the front door, this is the business end of the machine, and it's all one piece. And essentially what this is it is a propane tank. I bought it brand new so I can cut it up and stuff. So actually, if we pull it back, you can see, if you can see in there, that's the Muller blades, I guess you could call it, and it will turn if I turn it down here. It's got a little door down there that opens and shuts, and it kind of just clamps down, and actually there should be a little hook there, and it's actually gone. I don't know what happened to it. I'll have to fix that. But that's sort of the business end. Just a propane tank that's been cut up and re-welded back together. We got flanges here to bolt to the bottom end, which is the gearbox, or the pulley box, as you'll see. And these are just conduit pipes. Here is where the just the side part for where the chute goes. So this was a lot of cutting, a lot of welding, and actually this part was followed. This part here has its own set of instructions I'll put in the description that I got from online, and it wasn't too bad. It took a while, and I actually flame welded this whole project, or gas welded, as practice, and that was actually really fun. So that's just one piece. There's no assembly for this piece. So the next big piece is basically I needed to have a reduction system. I'm using just a regular motor, and I need to have some sort of reduction. So I just used a bunch of pulleys that I made in the wood lathe, and I'll show you later. So this is the bottom part, and all this is, it's a bunch of steel plates that I had lying around the shop that I just welded together to make one big plate. This hole is where the motor goes. We got some slots milled in there, you can see, to allow the pulleys to adjust back and forth. So we're going to put this like that, and actually the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the motor on the back. So here's the motor. The way I mounted this was I just got some really long bolts, and actually they were too thick, so I had to turn down the bolts in the lathe, which took a lot of time because there was fluxing issues and so forth. So we're going to take the nuts off the top. This just goes here, and the bolts pass through these holes. Next we have a pulley assembly. Now these pulleys, first I made the pulleys themselves in the wood lathe, which was pretty easy to do. It's just a piece of plywood that I cut out, put it in the wood lathe, and then just turned this little groove in it. And then I also sprayed the whole thing with spray-on rubber just to help with the grip of the belts. Now this whole thing is riding in a little bushing, right? There's a cast iron sleeve, a set screw that goes into a groove on the shaft so it doesn't pop out, and it lets it spin. Now don't worry, there's some washers are moving around, but that's just because they don't, like, this doesn't have any run out, you can see. This shaft goes through into here, and this has you can't see it, has a bronze bushing in there that captures it, makes it move nice and smoothly. And then there's a threaded rod that sticks out the back with a nut on it, and I also have a lubrication hole for lubricating every now and again. So we're going to take this nut off, and then we're going to pass it through this first slot next to the motor. Now there's a certain amount of adjustment, and the adjustment needs to be set when we have the other half on, the business end with the propane tank. So we're gonna get this in there. There we go. And then we're gonna put the washer and the nut on the back end here and thread that down. Now, just finger tight that for right now. Now we need to get the belts. Now, the back belt is just a link belt because it was the easiest. So actually, I should have put the belt on first because it's kind of hard. We get the one side. There we go. We got the back belt on. This is the belt that goes on the motor itself. It's going to attach to a pulley that goes right here. And then this top belt will go on a little bit later. So next we have the second pulley assembly, and that looks like this. I don't have the pulley on yet. So basically it's the same thing, this part, with the same threaded rod on the back, except this time it has a nice big hand wheel that has a knurled edge, and then there's a sleeve that goes over this. The other one has this too, that attaches there. So what we're going to do is we have to make sure it goes on the right way. Now this is a compound pulley, so there are two pulleys, a big and a small. Now the small pulley from the motor needs to go on the big pulley, and then this small pulley goes on this pulley, and it's a reduction. So we're going to take this little hand wheel thing off, put the washer on the top just like that, and actually what we're going to do is, what threads on the top is not a nut, but it's a handle that I made on the lathe. I'm going to thread that down, and right now I have I tighten this set screw here so that the shaft doesn't rotate. That way I can tighten this handle on. This acts as a clamp. So actually what I'm going to do, and I did this to the other one, I'm going to put some Loctite on these threads because I don't want anything to loosen up. So we're just going to squeeze some of this Loctite on, and then we're going to thread on the handle. Okay, and again the shaft is tightened, so there we go. That's tight. Now we're going to loosen this little set screw, and that will allow the pulley to rotate freely. See that? So now that's good. Cap up our Loctite here. That's going to hold it from loosening. Now we're going to pass this underneath this pulley like that into the belt. We're going to put the belt around the big pulley, and then take the hand wheel, tighten it on the back, and this is how we're going to tighten and hold all the belts up. Let's get the other belt here, put that around this top pulley, loosen that move things around. Okay, so this is the way it's going to be done. When we set everything up, we're going to grab this handle, grab the hand wheel in the back, and then we're going to pull it, and then we're going to tighten it. Now it's not all set up yet, but that's kind of how it's going to work. And you can see when I rotate the motor, there's a reduction here. And that's kind of the fundamental principles of this. And hopefully the rubber will make it grip better. Now I've already tested this without the rubber, and it seems to be pretty good. So hopefully this will be the final time I need to assemble it. Okay, we're on the other side right now. We're going to put on basically all the rest of the parts left are going to be enclosing all this and some bracketry. So actually the first thing, on this bracket I put two little divots here, that means the top. And this guy goes right here over that pulley. And this is kind of, this and the next part are just kind of supports that the top piece, the propane tank piece, is going to bolt into. So we have bolts that come in through below. Just got to finger tighten that for right now. After that, we have a straight piece that goes in the middle, right about here. It's the same sort of thing. It's got bolts from the bottom. This one's kind of tricky. And we're going to have to loosen this so I can move it around. Yeah, this other one. We're going to leave this finger tight for now. Now we're going to put this side panel on. It's just sheet metal. I had to weld on it and it warped a bit, so none of these side panels are perfect, but at least it encloses everything. So this one is not done yet, but where these two brackets are is going to be just like a light switch to turn the machine on and off. So it just goes here and it's held on with 4 1024 screws. Alright, so now we're kind of above it. I need to flip this thing around. I'm trying not to get it in your way, but we need to get the bottom. Okay, so there's the bottom, and this plate goes on it. I'm trying to remember which way. I don't think I made divots for this one, but I assume it only lines up. It's only going to line up one way. So the piece that goes around it, it's the piece that's curved. Again, I put two little divots on the top to indicate the top of the machine. So this one actually goes over like that, and these screws are going to go in here. So now we're going to flip this back over onto the she's heavy. And this kind of, can you see that? No, you can't. So the curved piece kind of curves around like that, and it goes underneath this top piece. Now this top piece is a little bit more than just a plate. First I have extensions here, because I'm going to keep this thing outside. And these extensions kind of go past this seam, and that's to block rainwater from getting in. I did a lot to stop rainwater from getting in. It's not going to be, it's by no means watertight, but I'm doing as much as I can to stop the rainwater getting in. I even painted everything so nothing rusts, or it slows down the rusts. So we're going to go on top here, and this curved part's going to go underneath, and then we're going to secure it down with some screws. So I'm actually gonna screw in these side pieces, or these two bolts over here first, or at least start them, just so this whole thing can be held up without me holding it. I'm not gonna tighten these, just gonna run these down a little bit. Loosen that a little bit. So now the bent piece comes over like that, goes under this, and then I have to secure it down. Some of you may be wondering what the heck this is. This is just, I had to hammer out a little indent that goes up so there's enough clearance for the pulley to turn, because again, this whole thing was kind of cobbled together from parts that I had around the shop. I wanted to spend as little money as possible. So next, now this little fork here you can see, and well, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a little fork, it has two prongs, and then we have this piece here. Now this has a fork on it as well. This guy goes in here and allows articulation right here, and then there's another articulation right here, and the thing that's on this that's articulating is there's a big kind of shield that has slopes like kind of like a roof, and that's going to help the water not even get to here. It's going to kind of wick it away and go out towards the sides, and you can adjust it where it is, again, because I want it to keep the rainwater out of this thing. So we're going to put this through, and it's a really tight fit. I'm going to put this through. I might need to get a hammer. There we go. I'm going to put the nut on, just snug it. So now it can move, but it's real stiff. And then once we get it in the right spot, we'll just tighten everything up. So before I close everything up, I'm just going to plug it in and give you a little look at how everything moves around. Here we go. See? Now here's the business end that'll connect into the other piece over here by the window. So it's just a little walk around. Alright, let's finish putting this together. Okay, so now before we have this front panel, I want to make sure that this part right here is the bracket that connects to the upper end, and I want to make sure that this is in properly. So, or I want to make sure everything's aligned. So really, you can go, I don't remember which way this goes. Okay, I just went and lined up the holes. The top end bolts onto this side, so it's going to go on like that. And we have some 1/2 inch by 13 bolts that go in here. Screw this on, and then tighten that up. So now that's in the right spot. So we're going to get behind here, and we're going to tighten these corner bolts up. Okay, so that's all tight. So now that that's tight, we're gonna take off this piece, because this needs to go above the faceplate. And now we can put the faceplate on. It goes like that, and you can see my super neatly cut holes. Well, actually, hold on. I'm missing a piece. So, the piece I'm missing somehow, it's just a bar that goes from here to here, and it just provides something to bolt that front face to. And I have no idea where it went. I didn't even paint it last night because I guess I just forgot about it. So I'm gonna need to find it or make another one. I really don't want to make another one. So stand by. Alright guys, sorry I kind of jumped a little bit, but that bar, I could not find it, so I had to make another one. So I just drilled the appropriate holes to screw into the frame, and then drilled and tapped the holes in the right spot so I can screw on the front piece. So now the front piece is on. We're going to continue with the build. Again, sorry I skipped it, but I don't feel like taking it back apart. So now we're going to put this bracket back on. It's going to go over the top piece, just like that. They just barely line up. That's okay now. That's on. And the top piece is going to be bolted to this bracket, while the center, this center piece coming from the pulley goes onto the Muller blade shaft. Okay, here's the tricky part. I got to thread on the top part while holding the bottom. So hopefully you can see everything. In fact, let me pull the camera up. It would be nice to have a helper. So, on it. We got a line them up here. Good thing it's super heavy. It's pretty heavy though. To the bottom. So we start spinning the pulley. And now I gotta just thread a bolt in to the top so I can hold it in place. I'm not gonna tighten it all the way, but I want to get it pretty close to the bottom. Okay. That's pretty good. So now we have two other bolts on each side that need to line up. Okay, so it took a while of finagling, but you gotta make it so that this shaft going through is straight. I took off the back inspection plate, and I did it like that for this exact reason, because aligning everything is really a pain. So let me plug her in. Again, I don't have a switch, so I have to do this. This door will be closed. So I'm going to put this back plate back on, and then we need to put the little roof on, and then we should be done. Okay, so here we are about a day or so later. One thing I did was I wired up the switch to turn it on, and I also put a couple outlets on there in case I needed some power. I plan to use this thing outside, so let's turn it on. So let me just, this is actually the first time I'm testing this, so I got one of those switches that lights up so you can see it. Looks like it works pretty good. And then I have I just have a heat gun. Looks like everything works great. That's awesome. So we have one more piece, and that's the little roof. So the roof, again, I don't remember if I said this, but I'm going to be keeping this thing outside, and I'm trying to stop the water from getting in. And the biggest reason for that is keeping the water out of the motor. The number one failure for electric motors is our shot bearings. So this is kind of at the perfect angle to let the water go into the motor. So that's why I'm doing all I can to kind of block this area, and then I want to block as much as I can. So we have this little roof here that's going to go in this arm. So the roof can articulate this way, and it can also articulate this way, so I can kind of put this in the right spot, or the spot that I want it to be in. Alright, let's do one final walk around. I'll turn it on. I think that about does it for this video on making the sand muller, or at least assembling my homemade sand muller. Now, one thing that I won't be able to really test this out until I do another pour. And again, if you watch my update video, you'll know that when it gets cold, I kind of hold off on the pours because I don't like the cold. But I did use it when it wasn't in its completed state, before it had all the paneling and everything on, and it seemed to work pretty well. One other thing that I found when building this is at first it slipped a lot, and that's because on the reduction, the one pulley that has a big gear with a big pulley with a little pulley attached, I found that that little pulley I made was too small, and there just wasn't enough friction. Because it's wood, right? There wasn't enough friction on the belt to grab it. So I actually had to make that bigger so it could have more pulley to grab without bending so harshly. And that helped tremendously in how much strength it has, but it turns a little bit faster than I would like. So let's turn it this way. That's actually a little bit fast for a Muller. You want it to be less than that. But it still works okay, and I'm gonna deal with it. The last thing I want to do, and I'm not gonna show in this video, is I think I'm gonna make a cap that goes over the top of this, so I can just put this on, because this is the only part that's not painted or galvanized, and again, I'm leaving this outside, so I imagine this is going to rust. It's not gonna be a big deal. Especially because we're going to have abrasives and stuff in here. But I still don't want it to get eaten away over a course of 4 or 5 years. So I think what I'm just going to make a little cap that goes on the top. So when I'm not using it, I can just cap it off. And I think that'll be good. I can also just leave the door open. But I'm not going to show that. That's another project for another time. So I'm blabbering too much. That's going to be it for this video, guys. This was a lot of fun. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.